separated from I'll know more. I don't agree with that, because at the beginning, when we were gonna do our teaching on November 10th, Saddle Lake helped us. They supported us, and it was the chief and council that supported it. They didn't take it over. That's the key here. They didn't try to take over the movement. And there was also Waterhen, Brenda Fiddler, a band counselor from there, was there at almost every rally. She's been there at every rally. And then there was Onion Lake that donated money and bought a space at the Ramada. So we had support from individual leadership. But the key here is they didn't try to take it over. They allowed the grassroots people to have a voice, and that's what made their support even more important. So there was leadership there all along, and yes, there are those that would like. There was talk of them, other leadership that have discussed wanting to take it over, I think, but they haven't come to us directly, so I can't really say. But they haven't. To date, they haven't, and they can't. History has shown that when movements like this happen, if leadership takes over, it kills the movement. So we can't. We're very, very aware of that. And we tell leadership, when you come join this movement, you can come and join and be a part of it as grassroots people. Because they're still our people, no matter what. And they are still grassroots. We've never excluded them. So for media to say that we've excluded them, it's one of those stories that has not been accurate. Okay? So again, I've learned a lot of things about media and who to trust and not who to trust, and that's really unfortunate. I know I will never go to Sun Media. Sun Media, do you hear that? I will never go to them. They will never have our voice. CBC might now. But definitely APTN has our voice. But I'll Know More has decided that we will target and we will speak with the grassroots media. They seem to get the information out more accurately than the mainstream media does. So we've been doing that. I've been getting calls from little tiny obscure radio stations in Hawaii, and I'll take it. I'll take those calls, and I will go out of my way to speak with them. So that's what we've decided as founders, and all the organizers that have stuck by us through it all. So, yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and there was another thing that I'm just a follow-up to that. Do you think that a meeting would have benefited, like a meeting with the chief prior to them going into the national meeting would have benefited? Or how do you feel about like Perry staying out of it? And, you know, like from a public standpoint, everybody's saying, okay, well, what's going on now? The chiefs aren't together, you know, there's a separation there, you know, but how do you feel about that?
Well, they haven't talked to us, so I can't really answer that. So, if there's a separation amongst them, that's unfortunate, because we need to be united. We have a very united, how should I say it, issue.
Was I'll Know More invited to that meeting with the Prime Minister?
No. but yet it was, I don't know, more that was instrumental in making that meeting happen, right? But we weren't invited. And that's okay. We weren't gonna go anyway, because we seen the agenda. We would have said thank you, but no thank you. Because we seen the agenda, and they came away from there saying that Bill C-45 will not be repealed. So, we're just gonna continue on until the protection of land and water is in place again. Okay? Okay, number 3. Oh, I kind of touched on this, didn't I? Response to Duncan's answer. Okay, about Bill C-45. He came away from there saying more or less that, well, he did state that Bill C-45 won't be repealed. And, you know, quite honestly, we knew that was going to happen. We're not the type of people that run through the meadow holding hands, you know, birds chirping. We know that there's an agenda that the conservative government has, and they will follow through with it at all costs, even to the detriment of their Canadian citizens, even to the detriment of the Indigenous people. We have been a very, invisible people for so long, and for I don't know more to happen is a phenomenal thing. It's a phenomenal thing. In the United States, there was this one article, they called it an Indian uprising. That was so cute. It's an Indian uprising. I was like, okay. But, so we knew as founders that this defending of the lands and the waters was going to be long term. We knew that, and we talked about it, and we all said, okay, we know we're going to be in it for a long time. So we understood that, and we'll continue to defend, even for those people who are telling us it's not going to happen. We'll defend for their children as well, because it'll be their children that will benefit from the protection of the land and the water.
The original 4 founders were women, and I see a lot of the people, other people that are involved, like the organizers across the country and spokespeople.
Yeah.
Is there any significance to that?
You know, for some reason, it's the women that have answered our call. All across the land, it seems to be the women that are leading this, and I'm not sure how come I can't answer that, but it seems to be the women, because in Edmonton, okay, so I'll tell you a little bit. This is the naivety again. We were, jeepers. When we decided, let's have a national day, Jessica was saying, okay, Sylvia, you take BC, Alberta, and some of Saskatchewan, and then she's like, and then Sheila, you take the Northwest Territory, and we're just dividing all these different provinces, and I didn't realize how crazy it was gonna get, right? So we put a call out, and then Shannon Hoare, Janice McCocus, Autumn Tailfeathers, and all these different women came forward from the different provinces. So we started talking to them. We created different chats in Facebook, and the one chat I called Calgary, I don't know more, Edmonton, Calgary, Edmonton, I don't know more, and then I had one for Regina and Saskatchewan and Prince Albert. It was just crazy what my chats were, and that's how we coordinated. that's how we plan all of the events that you witnessed, and that's how we planned them. That's where social media did help, and it became really instrumental in our planning. So that first rally in Edmonton, it was all planned through Facebook. Same with Calgary, and same with Saskatoon and Regina. It was all through Facebook. We didn't meet any of our coordinators until the day of the rally. So here I was in Edmonton, walking around looking for Shannon and Janice, not knowing really what they looked like, and it was like, and now Sylvia, can you come up to the thing, to that stage? So here's me walking up with my big res boots, and it was beautiful though. There was about 1,000 people, maybe about 1,500 people that showed up, and it wasn't even reported. So, yes.
Sylvia, when you were planning everything on Facebook and YouTube and everything else, I was kind of following it as well, and there was talks of some form of censorship by the government. Is that true? Did you experience any of that online or on YouTube? People
Yep.
putting I don't know more stuff on YouTube.
Yeah. There was actually videos that we were posting, and they would be pulled, but we never found out who pulled them. But they would all of a sudden disappear, and they would be gone. And then when we tried to, the people that were trying to repost them couldn't. So I can confirm that. And I had friends in the United States that were in media that told me that Canada issued a 5-day media blackout. So if you can confirm that, I would appreciate it. But my friends that did work in media told me this. And this was during that December 10th, when we called that national. Apparently it was about that time that Canada issued a media blackout for the US. Okay? So if you can go look for that and confirm it, that's a story. But thank goodness for Facebook, because we, Sacramento, California contacted us. By this time, I had friends that were from the US anyway through Facebook, so they knew what was going on. So they said, we want to make an I Don't Know More event in Los Angeles. So they did it. They had a big rally out there. And on January 21st, I Don't Know More will be marching with the Martin Luther King March. So they're going to be combining forces. I would love to meet Martin Luther King's children or grandchildren. I think that's phenomenal. That's awesome. So that's happening on January 21st. I wish I could be there. It would be such an honor. Yeah. So there's a lot of things happening. We're constantly being contacted by different groups, and I forgot to mention, we got invited. I Don't Know More has been invited to speak at the UN. That was announced. It was a surprise. It was announced on Friday at the Fort Qu'Appelle teach-in. So that was very cool.
What's taking you to London on the 20th? How are you getting there? Who's bringing you there?
Myself.
Yourself.
So
Fundraiser.
Yeah. Everything that you see happening, it's all on our cost. So I'll move on to number 2. How do you feel about? How do I feel about what? I forgot.
Oh, I forget too.
It's what I Don't Know More has become.
Oh, how do I feel about I Don't Know More? The founders and I were talking about that actually. I don't think it's really sunk in yet because we're extraordinarily busy. I'll give you an example. On Friday, I was in Fort Capel. Saturday, I was in La
Friday night
Ronge.
you were here.
Yeah,
For
Friday
round
night
dance.
I was here at the round dance. And then I drove back to Saskatoon. And then Saturday I was in La Ronge. And then went back to Saskatoon. And then Sunday I was in Powmaker. And then last night I got into Regina. And then I'm here today. So it gives you an idea of the schedule right now. So if you're seeing things out there, and I've been told it's become a global movement. I haven't had a chance to really take a look at that and for it to really sink in. So you probably have more information about that than I do. All I know is I'm getting emails from Africa, from New Zealand, and Australia, and Buenos Aires, and we are in constant communication with 2 UN organizations. So the UN is very aware of what is happening to the Indigenous people here. You know, when I used to read about the other countries and what the Indigenous people were experiencing over there, I couldn't relate to it. I didn't realize how much oppression that Indigenous people were experiencing here, because a lot of Indigenous people have normalized it. The depth of genocide, the depth of colonization has become almost normal. And that, just to give you an example, that 1 year in my reserve, we have approximately 3,000 people. The 1 year, I think we had 6 suicides, and then I didn't realize that was the processes of colonization, where the final stages of colonization is when the processes of colonialism become so unbearable that the colonized begin to kill themselves. I didn't realize at that time there was a name for it, and yet it's become almost normal. And when I came away and I came to university and I started learning, and there was a name for it, that's when I started to realize that it wasn't normal, it wasn't okay, and it wasn't right. And then it was like allies like Shannon that started to create another vision for me, speaking to them, that we actually can have self-determination, that Canada has failed at every level, the nation-to-nation treaty agreement, and that Canada has become very wealthy off the resources of Indigenous people, and yet we're living in third world conditions. And again, I invite you to come and see those. Don't just take my word for it. I will take you out there. I will take you out there. The other thing that all of you need to understand is, when you hear about the media talking about how Canada gives money to Indigenous people, that's not giving us money. It's being wealthy off of our resources and off of our lands. And those treaties are not done. They're not done. And I know that there are many stories as yourselves as journalists need to look at and get the truth from those stories, because you go to any reserve, biology and chemistry is not offered because they can't afford it, because the education system is so underfunded on the reserves. And this is where you see courageous people like Cindy Blackstock trying to bring that on par, so that the provincial funding and the funding on reserve is equal, and right now it's not. It is so underfunded, it's chronically underfunded. And it's not because the money is mismanaged, it's because it's chronically underfunded. And this is how come you see Indigenous people coming away from the reserves and not being able to work in the areas of science and math. It's because of those. I was fortunate that, I don't know how the heck I got to law school. Because I never, like I said, I never had a full year. I never had a full year of education. But that year, when I was in grade 12, I insisted on staying the whole year. So I did, I graduated.
The underfunding. If it gets to like a systematic thing that's happened over the past 56 years since Indian affairs have existed, to kind of make it get to this point where it gets to, where a federal government, no matter which stripe it was, could eventually just say, let's just get rid of them. Let's just get rid of trees. Like,
Oh,
do you think
yeah.
there could be a way that you're looking at it that way for a long
Absolutely.
period of time?
Absolutely. It's their attempt to extinguish the treaties. That's their agenda. Let's be clear about that. That is their agenda. Because the treaties give jurisdiction and authority for Indigenous people. It's supposed to be nation to nation. You don't see Russia going to China and saying, I'm going to take your education system and put it under our jurisdiction. But that's what the conservatives are doing. They're attempting to do. When we say nation to nation, the Indigenous people have been put in a place where the Indian Act takes control of everything. The Indian Act has diminished our standing as nations. I'll be the first to tell you to get rid of the Indian Act. It's an illegal piece of legislation that never should have been there. It never should have been there. But if you're going to amend the Indian Act, then do it with the consultation and with the Indigenous people involved. And
The little girl sign.
oh yeah. During one of the rallies, there was this little girl. She was sitting on some stairs, and she was carrying this big sign that was almost as big as her. And I have it on my Facebook, and it said, "You will not amend me out of existence." And that's basically what the conservatives are attempting to do. Amend the Indigenous people out of existence. And that's what we're trying to stop. That's what I Don't Know More is trying to stop.
You talked a lot about nation to nation, and what I really liked about kind of I Don't Know More is it's not just, like you said, like the Indian uprising. It's not really that. It's kind of, you're taking the people and making it clear that it affects everyone and saying everyone needs to get educated. And with that, like, you go to rallies and you don't, it's a huge group of people of all different kinds. So how have you kind of, like, taken that into your philosophy of I Don't Know More?
And we tell people, do you drink water? And of course, they're going to say yes. Well, Bill C-45 affects you. And do you go fishing? And people will say generally yes. Well, Bill C-45 affects you. Then I Don't Know More is defending on your behalf because it affects you. And that's what I Don't Know More is about. If you're grassroots and if you drink water, we'll defend for you. Yes.
It hasn't been long since Sean Atleo was elected. Are you worried that the I Don't Know More movement will undermine his mandate and fragment the First Nations political system? And also, I'm wondering if you think the AFN failed to educate and inform First Nations people about the ramifications of Bill C-45.
do I say this? I think there was issues with the AFN even before I Don't Know More. There was issues with it. And I Don't Know More has a very treaty-based Indigenous sovereignty vision. And AFN supports, from what I understand of the press release, supports Bill C-45. So already there's something drawn there, and I have to say that the AFN, no political organization speaks on behalf of I Don't Know More. And I'll end it there.
Sylvia,
Yes.
you've pointed out some scary trends that the government has been
Yeah.
doing to your people, and I'm curious, especially with a majority government, I'm curious as to why you think that this movement will be effective.
If you look at the history of the world, it's social movements that have stopped wars, toppled governments, have stopped corporations. So I think this movement will have similar impacts. I truly believe it. It has to, because I think that Indigenous sovereignty is the last stand before the conservatives devastate our waters and our lands. It's the treaties that are the last stand. And if our European allies don't understand that now, then they need to get informed. Because when you're talking about nation to nation, then it's the Indigenous nation who took treaty, who have jurisdiction over those resources too. We have a say to protect them. And it's part of our laws. We're not a lawless people. When the European nations came to our territories, make no mistake of that. We have laws, and those laws tell us and inform us we must protect our lands and our resources and the waters and all of that. This is how come I'm here today, is because those elders have told me you have to invoke those laws. So that's what I'm doing. That's what drives this movement as well. It's the prayer of the elders, and we've gone to our elders. We went to our elders for ceremony and protocol and all those different things. So it's not like we're all of a sudden popped up, and it's been supported by the elders, by their prayers and ceremonies.